They say you never really know someone until you see them at their worst. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes you don't even know them at their best. Sometimes the person sleeping next to you every night is a complete stranger, and you only find out when a single photograph destroys everything you believed was real. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how one picture, one necklace, and one business trip to Paris burned my entire world to the ground. But more importantly, this is the story of how I rose from those ashes and made sure everyone who hurt me paid the price. It was a Tuesday evening. I remember because Tuesdays were always quiet in our house. My husband Marcus would usually work late, and I'd spend the evening reading or catching up with friends. I was sitting on our cream-colored sofa, the one we'd picked out together from that expensive furniture store in Manhattan, sipping chamomile tea and scrolling through my phone. Just another peaceful evening in what I thought was my perfect life. Then my phone buzzed, a message. From a number I didn't recognize, I almost ignored it. I get spam messages all the time, but something made me open it. Maybe it was intuition, maybe it was fate. Maybe God himself was giving me a wake-up call. The message had no words, just a photo. And when I opened that photo, my hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. It was a woman. Young, beautiful, with long dark hair cascading over her bare shoulders. She was wearing a black evening dress, standing in what looked like a luxury hotel room. The Eiffel Tower glittered through the window behind her. She had this smile on her face, confident, victorious, like she'd won something. But that's not what made my blood turn to ice. Around her neck, catching the soft golden light of the room, was my necklace, MY necklace. The vintage sapphire and diamond piece that Marcus had given me on our 5th wedding anniversary. The one he'd told me belonged to his grandmother. The one he'd clasped around my neck with trembling fingers while whispering that I was the only woman worthy of wearing it. The one I kept locked in my personal safe because it was worth over $200,000 and held more sentimental value than anything else I owned. My heart stopped, completely stopped. I stared at that photo for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. There had to be an explanation. There had to be a reason. This couldn't be what it looked like. But deep down, in that place where we always know the truth even when we're desperate to deny it, I knew exactly what this was. Before we go any further, I need you to do something for me. Smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to tell you, the revenge I planned, the way I made them all pay, you're going to want to follow every single second of this journey. I sat there, frozen, staring at this stranger wearing my necklace in Paris. Paris, where my husband Marcus was supposed to be right now, on a business trip, with his assistant, Jessica. The woman in the photo was Jessica. My tea had gone cold in my hand. I set it down carefully on the coffee table, my movements slow and mechanical, like I was watching myself from outside my body. I looked at the photo again, zoomed in. The necklace was definitely mine, every detail matched. The specific arrangement of sapphires, the unique setting of the center stone, the delicate diamond links. But how was she wearing it? The necklace was in my safe, in my closet, upstairs. I stood up, my legs unsteady, and walked toward the stairs. Our house was huge. One of those modern mansions in Connecticut with too many rooms and too much empty space. Marcus had insisted on it when his company started making serious money. "We need a house that reflects our status," he'd said. I'd gone along with it, even though I'd grown up middle class and still felt uncomfortable with such excessive wealth. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. Down the hallway, past the guest rooms we never used, into our master bedroom. Everything looked normal, perfect, untouched. The bed was made with our expensive Italian linens. Marcus's cologne still lingered in the air from this morning when he'd gotten ready for his flight. I walked into my closet. It was the size of most people's bedrooms, lined with designer clothes and shoes I rarely wore. At the back, hidden behind a full-length mirror, was my safe. My hands were shaking as I entered the code. 6 digits, our anniversary date. The safe clicked open. I pulled out my jewelry boxes one by one. Earrings, bracelets, rings, and then the blue velvet box that held the necklace. I opened it with trembling fingers, empty. The box was completely empty. I stood there, staring at the vacant space where my necklace should have been, and felt something crack inside me. Not my heart. No, that would come later. This was something else. This was the sound of my reality splitting in two, everything I thought I knew. Everything I believed about my life, my marriage, my husband, all of it crumbling like a sandcastle hit by a wave. Marcus had taken my necklace, the necklace he'd given me, the necklace that was supposed to represent his grandmother's legacy and our eternal love. He'd opened my safe, he knew my code, of course he did. He'd taken it out, and he'd given it to her, to Jessica, his assistant, and she was wearing it in Paris, wearing it and photographing herself in it and sending that photo to me. Sending it to me, that was the detail that finally broke through my shock. She'd sent it to me on purpose. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a photo meant for someone else that got misdirected. No, Jessica had deliberately taken a photo of herself wearing my necklace and sent it directly to my phone. This was a message, a declaration, a taunt. She was telling me she'd won. I don't know how long I stood there in my closet, holding that empty velvet box. Time had stopped meaning anything. But eventually, my phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. My hands were steadier this time as I opened it. The shock was wearing off, being replaced by something else, something colder, harder. The second message did have words this time. Hope you don't mind me borrowing this. Marcus said you never wear it anyway. Paris is absolutely magical, by the way. We're having the most amazing time. Don't wait up for him. And there was a second photo. This one was Marcus and Jessica together. They were at a candle-lit restaurant, sitting close, his arm around her shoulders. He was looking at her the way he used to look at me, the way he hadn't looked at me in. How long? I couldn't even remember. Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. How I became the woman standing in a closet full of designer clothes, staring at photos of her husband with another woman. Because I wasn't always this person. I wasn't always the fool. 10 years ago, I was Sarah Mitchell, a 26-year-old marketing coordinator living in a small apartment in Brooklyn. I was nobody special. Just a regular girl trying to make it in the city, working long hours, struggling with student loans, eating ramen more often than I'd like to admit. I met Marcus at a corporate event. My company was doing marketing for his tech startup, and I'd been assigned to the account. He was 32, ambitious, brilliant, and so charming it was almost unfair. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. When Marcus focused his attention on you, it was like standing in a spotlight. He pursued me relentlessly. Flowers delivered to my office, surprise lunch dates, long conversations that stretched past midnight. He told me I was different from other women he'd met. Real, genuine, not interested in his money or his potential success, and that was true. Back then, Marcus didn't have much money. His company was just starting. He was living on investor funding and hope. I fell in love with his drive, his passion, the way he talked about changing the world through technology. I believed in him when a lot of people didn't. When investors pulled out, when his co-founder quit, when things looked desperate, I was there. I encouraged him, supported him. I used my marketing skills to help build his brand for free, working evenings and weekends because I believed in what he was building. We got married after dating for 2 years. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. We couldn't afford anything fancy. Our honeymoon was a weekend in the Catskills. Marcus promised me that someday when his company took off, he'd take me to Paris. We'd stay in the most romantic hotel and dance under the Eiffel Tower and drink expensive champagne. I told him I didn't need Paris. I just needed him. God, I was so naive. 3 years into our marriage, everything changed. Marcus's company, Technova Solutions, landed a massive contract with a Fortune 500 corporation. Then another. Then another. Within 18 months, we went from barely scraping by to wealth I couldn't have imagined. Marcus was worth millions, then tens of millions, then more. Suddenly we were living in a Connecticut mansion. I had a closet full of clothes I didn't choose, picked out by a stylist Marcus hired. We attended galas and charity events with people whose names I recognized from Forbes lists. Marcus bought me jewelry, cars, anything I mentioned even slightly liking. But somewhere in all of that, I lost my husband. He was always working, always traveling, always in meetings or on calls or reviewing contracts. The man who used to spend hours talking to me about everything and nothing became someone who barely looked up from his phone at dinner. When I tried to talk to him about it, he'd say I didn't understand the pressure he was under. The responsibility. He was building an empire and I needed to be patient, so I was patient. I played the role of the perfect wife. I smiled at his business dinners. I organized our home. I tried to be understanding when he missed our anniversary because of a crucial meeting, when he forgot my birthday because he was closing a deal. when he stopped touching me like he used to. I told myself this was normal. This was what happened when you built something great. The sacrifice was temporary. Eventually, things would slow down and we'd reconnect. We'd get back what we'd lost. I was making excuses for him. I see that now. I was so desperate to hold on to the fairy tale, the story of the girl who believed in the struggling entrepreneur and got her happily ever after, that I ignored all the signs. And there were signs. Marcus hired Jessica about 2 years ago. She was 28, beautiful, sharp as a knife, with degrees from prestigious schools and an impressive resume. He introduced her as his new executive assistant, someone who could help manage his increasingly complex schedule and business demands. I didn't think anything of it at first. Marcus had assistants before, but Jessica was different. She was always there, always. She accompanied him to every meeting, every business dinner, every trip. She had his calendar, his passwords, his complete trust. "Jessica's invaluable," Marcus would say. "I honestly don't know how I functioned before her. She anticipates my needs before I even know I have them." She started appearing in our personal life, too. She'd drop off documents at the house. She'd call during dinner. Marcus would take the calls, every single time, even when I asked him not to. "It's important, Sarah. The business doesn't stop just because we're eating." I started to feel like the other woman in my own marriage. Marcus spent more time with Jessica than with me. He knew details about her life, her preferences, her opinions. When I'd ask about his day, his stories always featured Jessica. Jessica suggested this brilliant strategy. Jessica handled that crisis perfectly. Jessica made me laugh today when I tried to bring it up once. Carefully. I didn't want to be that wife, the jealous, insecure one. So I approached it gently, mentioning that maybe he was relying on Jessica a bit too much, that perhaps he needed better boundaries between work and personal life. Marcus looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous. "Jessica is my assistant, Sarah, that's all. Are you really going to be one of those wives who gets jealous of every woman I work with? I expected better from you. You're being paranoid and frankly a little embarrassing." He made me feel small, stupid, like my concerns were irrational and beneath him, so I stopped bringing it up. I swallowed my discomfort and played the supportive wife. But now, standing in my closet with an empty jewelry box and photos of my husband with his assistant in Paris, wearing my necklace, I realized I hadn't been paranoid at all. I'd been blind. I walked back downstairs in a daze. My whole body felt numb, like I was moving through water. I sat back down on the sofa and looked at the photos again, really looked at them. There was an intimacy in these images that couldn't be faked. The way Marcus's hand rested on Jessica's shoulder. The way she leaned into him, the comfort between them. This wasn't new. This wasn't a sudden trip where something happened impulsively. This had been going on for a while. How long? Months? A year? Longer? I thought back through the past 2 years, through every business trip, every late night at the office, every weekend he'd gone in for urgent matters. How many of those times had been lies? How many times had he been with her? And the necklace. God, the necklace. That felt like the cruelest cut of all. It wasn't just that he was cheating. It was that he'd taken something precious, something meant to symbolize our love, and given it to her. Like I meant nothing. Like our marriage meant nothing. Like everything he'd ever told me was just words. Empty, meaningless. The message said he'd told Jessica I never wore. I told her about the photos, about the necklace, about the emails and Marcus's divorce plans and the offshore accounts. Emily was silent for a long moment after I finished. "That absolute bastard," she finally said, her voice cold. "Sarah, you need the best divorce attorney in Connecticut. I have connections there. I'm calling someone first thing in the morning. I don't just want a divorce attorney, Em. I want to destroy him, both of them." "Good," Emily said. "Because from what you've just told me, we have everything we need to do exactly that." We stayed on the phone for another hour. Emily was brilliant, strategic, thinking 3 steps ahead just like I needed to. She explained exactly what I needed to document, how to protect myself legally, and what moves to make first. "The key," she said, "is that Marcus doesn't know you know. That's your biggest advantage right now. He thinks he's controlling the narrative. He thinks he's going to come home and drop this bomb on you when he's ready, on his terms. But you're going to be ready. You're going to know every move before he makes it." "What about Jessica sending me those photos?" I asked. "Won't she tell Marcus?" "Maybe, maybe not. From what you've described, she sounds arrogant, impulsive. She wanted to hurt you, and she did it without thinking through the consequences. She might keep it to herself because if Marcus finds out, he'll know she compromised their secret. He'll be angry at her for being reckless." Emily was right. The more I thought about it, the more I realized Jessica probably wouldn't tell Marcus. She'd acted out of spite and jealousy, and now she'd either regret it or be too proud to admit what she'd done. Don't respond to her messages, Emily continued. Don't give any indication that you've seen them or that anything has changed. Let her wonder. Let her stress about it. Meanwhile, you prepare. After we hung up, I felt different. The crushing pain was still there. The betrayal still burned, but it was fuel now. Energy. I wasn't collapsing under the weight of what they'd done to me. I was sharpening myself into a weapon. I barely slept that night. My mind was racing with plans and possibilities. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that photo of Jessica in my necklace. But instead of making me cry, it made me more determined. The next morning, Emily called me at 7. I talked to Catherine Morrison. She's the best divorce attorney in Connecticut, maybe on the entire East Coast. She's expensive, but she's ruthless. I explained your situation and she wants to meet with you today. Can you get to her office in Greenwich by 10? I'll be there, I said. I got dressed carefully. Not the soft, comfortable clothes I usually wore around the house. I pulled out one of the power suits from the back of my closet, something I hadn't worn since my corporate days. Black, tailored, perfect. I did my makeup precisely, pulled my hair back. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked like someone who meant business. The drive to Greenwich took 40 minutes. Catherine Morrison's office was in a sleek building overlooking the water. Everything about it screamed expensive and elite. The receptionist led me to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture. Catherine was in her 50s, perfectly put together, with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through me. She gestured for me to sit and got straight to the point. Emily told me your situation. Before we go further, I need to know something. What do you want out of this? A fair divorce settlement? Maximum financial payout? Revenge? Because those are 3 different strategies. All of it, I said. I want what I'm legally owed. I want him to pay for what he's done, and I want everyone to know who he really is. Catherine smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a shark seeing blood in the water. Then we're going to get along very well. Show me everything you found. I spent the next 2 hours going through every detail with Catherine. The emails, the financial documents, Marcus's plans to hide assets, the morality clause in his company bylaws, Jessica's employment contract, everything. Catherine took notes, asked precise questions, and built a complete picture. Here's what's going to happen, she finally said. First, we document everything. We need copies of all these files that are legally obtained and admissible in court. You had access to the family computer for legitimate household reasons, so what you found is permissible. We'll have a forensic accountant go through the financial records and trace exactly where Marcus has been moving money. What about the company? I asked. The morality clause. That's our nuclear option, Catherine said. We can leak evidence of the affair to the board of directors. With the morality clause in place, they'd have grounds to remove Marcus as CEO. But we have to time that carefully. If we do it too early, it could complicate the divorce settlement. If the company's value drops because Marcus is removed, there's less to divide. So when? We use it as leverage. We let Marcus know we have the evidence and can destroy his position at the company. We force him to agree to our terms for the divorce. He gives you everything you're entitled to and more, or we go to the board and he loses everything. I nodded slowly. What about Jessica? She violated her employment contract by having an affair with her boss. That's grounds for immediate termination, no severance. And depending on how far you want to take this, there might be grounds for a civil suit. Alienation of affection isn't recognized in Connecticut, but we can get creative with other angles. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, for instance. Those photos she sent you, that was deliberate, malicious. A good case could be made that she intentionally caused you psychological harm. I want her fired, I said. I want her exposed. I want her to lose everything she thought she was gaining. Then that's what we'll make happen. But Sarah, I need you to understand something. This is going to get ugly. Marcus has money for expensive lawyers. He's going to fight back. He's going to try to paint you as bitter, vengeful, greedy. He's going to dig into your life looking for anything he can use against you. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Marcus giving my necklace to his mistress, about him planning to rob me of what I was legally owed, about the 2 of them laughing at me, calling me boring, treating me like I was nothing. I'm prepared, I said. Let him try. Over the next 3 days, while Marcus and Jessica were still in Paris, I became someone new. Someone focused and strategic and absolutely relentless. Catherine connected me with a forensic accountant named David Chen. He was a quiet man in his 40s who spoke in numbers the way poets speak in verse. I gave him access to all of Marcus's financial records and he started tracing the money. "Your husband is smart," David said after the first day of analysis. "He's been moving assets very carefully. Shell companies, offshore accounts, strategic investments in his name only, but he made mistakes. He assumed he had more time and he got sloppy in a few places. I can track it all." "How much is he trying to hide?" I asked. David looked at me seriously. "Conservatively, about $40 million. My stomach dropped. $40 million. Half of that was legally mine. Marcus had been planning to steal $20 million from me. "Can we get it back? Can we prove what he did?" "Absolutely. It'll take some time, but I can build an airtight case. The courts don't look kindly on spouses who try to hide assets during divorce proceedings. This could actually work in your favor. When a judge sees this level of deception, they tend to punish it. You might end up with more than half." I also hired a private investigator. His name was Ray, a former police detective who now specialized in infidelity cases. I gave him all the information I had about Marcus and Jessica, and he started building a comprehensive file. "I'll document everything," Ray said. "Every meeting, every hotel, every interaction. By the time I'm done, you'll have photographic and video evidence that leaves no room for doubt. I'll do it all legally, nothing that can be thrown out of court." "How long will it take?" I asked. "For this kind of case, give me 2 weeks, I'll have everything you need." While all of this was happening, I had to maintain my normal life. I couldn't let anyone suspect that anything had changed. I went to my usual yoga class, had lunch with friends, smiled and laughed and pretended my world hadn't exploded. It was the hardest performance of my life. Marcus called me every day from Paris. Casual calls where he talked about boring meetings and difficult negotiations. Lies, all lies. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him I knew everything. But I kept my voice calm and supportive. "How's the trip going?" I'd ask. "Exhausting," he'd say. "These international clients are demanding, but Jessica's been helpful. She's really good at managing these relationships." I bet she is, I thought. "When will you be home?" I asked. "Friday evening. My flight lands at 6. "Don't worry about picking me up. I'll have Jessica arrange a car." Of course he would. "I'll make dinner," I said. "Your favorite. We can have a quiet evening together." "That sounds nice, Sarah. I've missed you." The lies came so easily to him. He'd missed me. Right. He'd been so busy missing me while sleeping with his assistant in Paris. After we hung up, I allowed myself 5 minutes. 5 minutes to feel the pain, to cry, to let the betrayal wash over me. Then I dried my tears, fixed my makeup, and got back to work. Jessica tried texting me twice more, once with another photo of her and Marcus at some Parisian landmark and once with a message. "You've been very quiet. Cat got your tongue, or are you just too devastated to respond?" I didn't reply. Let her wonder. Let her worry that maybe I hadn't seen the messages. Let her stress about what I might or might not know. Emily called me every evening to check in and help me strategize. "When Marcus gets back and tells you he wants a divorce, you need to act shocked," she said. "Devastated, you can't let him know you've been preparing. Let him think he has all the power. Let him make his demands, then we'll counter with everything we have." "What if he doesn't ask for a divorce right away?" I said. "The emails said he would, but what if he changes his mind?" "Then we wait," Emily said. "We let Ray finish his investigation. We let David complete the financial analysis. We build our case until it's absolutely bulletproof. And then, when we're ready, you file first. The advantage always goes to whoever files first." Thursday night, the night before Marcus was due home, I did something I hadn't done in years. I prayed. I wasn't particularly religious, but I needed something beyond myself, some sense that there was justice in the universe. I prayed for strength, for clarity, for the ability to see this through without losing myself in the anger and pain. And I prayed that Marcus and Jessica would get exactly what they deserved. Friday arrived. Marcus's flight was landing at 6. He'd be home by 7:30. I spent the day preparing. I made his favorite meal, roasted lamb with rosemary potatoes, set the table with our good china, put on a dress he used to like, created the perfect scene of domestic tranquility. If this was going to be the night he asked for a divorce, I was going to make him look me in the eye while he destroyed our life together. 7:30 came and went. Marcus didn't come home. At 8, he texted, "Running late, flight was delayed, be home soon." Another lie. I checked the flight status. It had landed on time. He finally walked through the door at 9:15, his suitcase in one hand, his phone in the other. He looked tan, rested, happy. Paris had been good to him. "Sarah," he said, giving me a distracted kiss on the cheek. "Sorry I'm late. Customs was a nightmare." "That's okay," I said, my voice steady. "Dinner's ready." I kept it warm. We sat down to eat. Marcus talked about his trip, spinning elaborate lies about meetings and negotiations. He was good at it, convincing. If I didn't know the truth, I would have believed every word. "How was everything here?" he asked, not really interested. "Quiet," I said. "Lonely without you." Something flickered across his face. Guilt, impatience, I couldn't tell. We finished dinner. Marcus seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly, probably texting Jessica. They'd been apart for almost 4 hours. He must be going through withdrawal. "Sarah," he finally said, setting down his fork. "We need to talk." Here it was, the moment. "Of course," I said. "What about?" Marcus took a breath, looked at me with what he probably thought was compassion but was really just pity. "I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to be direct. I want a divorce." I let my face crumble, let tears well up in my eyes. It wasn't hard. Beneath the anger, beneath the planning, the pain was still there, raw and real. "What? Marcus, why? What did I do wrong?" "It's not about you doing anything wrong," he said, his voice taking on that patient tone people use when explaining something to a child. "We've just grown apart. We want different things. I need a partner who understands my world, my ambitions. You're a wonderful person, Sarah, but we're not right for each other anymore." "Is there someone else?" I asked, making my voice small and scared. He hesitated for just a second. Then, "That's not what this is about. This is about us not working anymore." Liar, coward, he couldn't even be honest now. "We can work on it," I said, playing my role perfectly. "We can go to counseling, we can take a trip together, reconnect. Please, Marcus, don't throw away 10 years of marriage." "My mind is made up," he said firmly. "I've already talked to lawyers. We'll work out a fair settlement. You'll be taken care of, I promise. But the marriage is over, Sarah." "How long have you been planning this?" I whispered. "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters to me," he sighed. "A few months. I wanted to be sure before I said anything." A few months. While he was sleeping with Jessica, while he was moving money into hidden accounts, while he was preparing to rob me. "I need time to process this," I said, letting my voice break. "This is so sudden." "Take all the time you need," Marcus said, sounding relieved that I wasn't fighting harder. "I'm going to stay in the guest room for now. We can start working out the details next week." He stood up, grabbed his suitcase, and headed upstairs, probably to call Jessica and tell her how well it had gone, how I'd been shocked but compliant, how easy this was going to be. I sat at the table surrounded by the ruins of our dinner and allowed myself a small smile. He had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I called Catherine. "He asked for the divorce, exactly like you said he would." "Good," Catherine said. "Did you play it right?" "Academy Award performance. He thinks I'm devastated and helpless." "Perfect. Now we wait for his lawyers to send over their proposed settlement. When they do, we'll know exactly what he's trying to get away with, and then we'll bury him." The settlement offer arrived 3 days later. A courier delivered it to the house in an official-looking envelope. Marcus wasn't home, of course. He was staying with a friend while we figured things out. He was staying with Jessica. Ray had already confirmed it with photos. I opened the envelope with shaking hands, not from fear, from rage. The offer was insulting. Marcus was proposing to give me $5 million. $5 million out of the $80 million he was actually worth. He'd undervalued the house, undervalued his company, and completely failed to mention dozens of assets and accounts. There was a deadline, too. I had 10 days to accept the offer or it would be withdrawn and reduced. He was trying to pressure me into taking a fraction of what I was owed, betting that I'd be so scared of getting nothing that I'd accept this pittance. I called Catherine and read her the offer. She laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, Sarah, he's buried himself. This offer is so outrageously unfair that when we get in front of a judge, they're going to crucify him. Send it to me. Don't respond to Marcus or his lawyers. Let them think you're considering it." I also called Emily. $5 million. She said, her voice icy. "Out of $80 million, he's trying to rob you blind." "I know, but Catherine says it actually helps us, shows how dishonest he's being." "She's right, any judge will see this for what it is. How are you holding up?" "I'm angry," I admitted. "So angry I can barely see straight, but I'm channeling it, focusing it." "Good, that anger is your fuel. Let it burn, Sarah. Let it drive you. You're going to win this." Ray finished his investigation and delivered a comprehensive file. Photos of Marcus and Jessica together, entering hotels, kissing in parking garages, having dinner at romantic restaurants. He documented everything. "They're not even being careful anymore," Ray said. "They think they're home free. Makes my job easier." David completed his financial analysis and presented me with a detailed report showing exactly where Marcus had hidden $40 million. The shell companies, the offshore accounts, the deliberately obscured investments. All of it tracked and documented. "This is fraud," David said. "Clear, intentional fraud. When the court sees this, Marcus is going to be in serious trouble." I had everything I needed. All the evidence, all the documentation, every piece of ammunition I could possibly want. It was time to strike. Catherine filed my counterpetition for divorce on a Monday morning, not a response to Marcus's offer, a separate filing that laid out exactly what I was demanding and why. I wanted half of all assets, properly valued at the full $80 million, $40 million. I wanted the house. I wanted my legal fees covered, and I was including all of David's financial analysis showing Marcus's attempts to hide assets. But that was just the legal filing. That was the public opening move. The real attack came an hour later. I had Catherine send a private letter to Marcus and his lawyers. In it, we included samples of the evidence we had. Photos of Marcus and Jessica together, copies of their emails, documentation of the affair, and a reminder about the morality clause in Technova's corporate bylaws. The letter was clear. Agree to our terms for the divorce settlement, or we take this evidence to the board of directors and every major investor in the company. We expose the affair publicly. We trigger the morality clause. We destroy Marcus's position and reputation. He had 48 hours to respond. I also sent a separate letter to Technova's Human Resources Department. An anonymous complaint about Jessica violating company policy by engaging in an inappropriate relationship with the CEO. I included enough evidence to force an investigation, but not so much that they'd know it came from me. Jessica was about to be put on administrative leave pending an ethics investigation. Her career at Technova was over, and then I did something that might have been petty, but I didn't care. I called the jewelry store where Marcus had purchased my sapphire necklace. I explained that my necklace had been stolen and was reported to have been seen in Paris. I filed a police report for theft of property valued over $200,000. Marcus had given Jessica stolen property. When she tried to cross back into the United States with it, Customs was going to have some very interesting questions. All of this happened on the same day. A coordinated strike designed to destroy both of them simultaneously. I sat in my house, in the home that was about to become mine alone, and waited for the fallout. It didn't take long. Marcus called me at 2 in the afternoon. His voice was shaking with rage. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Sarah?" "I'm protecting my interests," I said calmly. "Did you really think I was going to just accept your insulting offer? Did you really think I was that stupid? You've been spying on me, going through my private emails. You had no right." "I had every right. We're married, community property state. That computer is as much mine as yours. Everything I found is completely legal and admissible in court. You're threatening to destroy my company, my reputation, everything I've built." "No, Marcus. You did that. You're the one who violated your contract. You're the one who had an affair with an employee. You're the one who tried to hide $40 million. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. This is blackmail. No, this is negotiation. You offered me $5 million. I want what I'm legally owed. $40 million, the house and my legal fees covered. You agree to that and this stays private. You fight me and I burn it all down." There was silence on the line. I could hear Marcus breathing, trying to control his anger. "I need time," he finally said. "You have 48 hours. After that, my attorney sends everything to your board of directors. And Marcus, I filed a police report about my necklace, the one you stole from my safe and gave to your mistress. You might want to warn Jessica that she's in possession of stolen property. Customs tends to frown on that." I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but from adrenaline, not fear. That was the first time in 10 years that I'd stood up to Marcus. The first time I'd met his power with my own. It felt incredible. An hour later, Emily called me. "Sarah, you're a genius. Marcus's lawyers are in full panic mode. I have friends at his firm and the word is they're advising him to settle. They know he can't win this fight." That evening, Catherine called. "Jessica has been placed on administrative leave from Technova. The HR investigation started this afternoon. She's finished there whether the affair becomes public or not. Even if they can't prove everything, there's enough smoke that they'll force her out." "What about Marcus?" I asked. "He's scared, really scared. His lawyers know that if this goes to court, the judge is going to destroy him for hiding assets. And if it goes to the board, he loses his position. He's trapped, Sarah. He has no good options. So he'll settle. I'd bet my career on it. We'll have an answer within 48 hours. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. Everything was in motion. All the pieces were moving exactly as I'd planned. The next morning, I got a visitor. Jessica showed up at my door at 9 a.m. She looked terrible. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged, her eyes red from crying. The polished, confident woman from those Paris photos was gone. "Sarah," she said, her voice breaking, "please, we need to talk." I almost closed the door in her face, but curiosity won. "What do you want, Jessica?" "I need you to drop the police report about the necklace. Customs seized it when I came back into the country. I'm facing charges for transporting stolen property. This could destroy my entire life." "You should have thought of that before you put on my necklace," I said coldly. "I didn't know it was stolen. Marcus gave it to me. He said it was his to give." "He lied, like he lies about everything. But you didn't care about the truth, did you? You just cared about taking what was mine." Tears streamed down Jessica's face. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I know what we did was wrong. I know I hurt you. But please don't let this ruin my entire future. I'll lose everything. Like you tried to make me lose everything. I was stupid. I was in love. I thought Marcus and I were going to be together. And now," she laughed bitterly, "he won't return my calls. The second things got complicated, the second his lawyers told him the affair was going to cost him, he cut me off. Completely. I've been fired from my job, I'm facing criminal charges, and the man I thought loved me has abandoned me." Part of me felt a tiny spark of satisfaction seeing her like this, but mostly I just felt tired. "You sent me those photos from Paris," I said. "You taunted me, told me I was boring and worthless. You did that deliberately to hurt me. I know I was cruel, I was terrible, I wanted to win, I wanted you to know that I'd won. How's that working out for you?" Jessica broke down completely, sobbing on my doorstep. I felt nothing, no pity, no compassion. She'd made her choices. "The police report stays," I said. "You want to avoid charges, work with the DA. Tell them Marcus gave you the necklace knowing it was stolen. Tell them everything. Every detail of your affair, every lie he told, everything. You cooperate fully and maybe they'll give you a deal." "That would destroy him." "Yes," I said. "It would. Your choice, Jessica. Protect the man who abandoned you or save yourself." I closed the door. The next day, 47 hours and 32 minutes after our deadline, Marcus's lawyers sent their response. He agreed to everything. $40 million, the house, legal fees, all of it. In exchange, I would keep the evidence of the affair private, not share it with the board or investors. Sign a non-disclosure agreement about the reasons for our divorce. Catherine called me to go over the settlement. "This is a complete victory, Sarah. You're getting everything you're entitled to and more. The NDA is standard. And honestly, you don't need to destroy his reputation anymore. You've already won." "What about Jessica?" I asked. "She's cooperating with the DA. Gave them a full statement about Marcus giving her the necklace. They're not pressing charges against her, but Marcus is now being investigated for theft. Even if nothing comes of it criminally, it's another stain on his record." I sat with the settlement agreement in my hands. This was it. The end of my marriage. The end of the life I'd thought I was building. But also the beginning of something new. "I'll sign it," I said. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in October, exactly 6 months after that first photo arrived on my phone. 6 months that had transformed me completely. I sat in the courthouse in my black suit, Catherine beside me, and watched as the judge signed the final papers. Marcus was on the other side of the room with his legal team. We didn't look at each other. We didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. When it was over, I walked out into the autumn sunshine a single woman, $40 million richer, owner of a beautiful home I'd never actually wanted, and completely, utterly free. Catherine shook my hand on the courthouse steps. "You should be proud of yourself, Sarah. Not many people would have had the strength to fight like you did." "I didn't have a choice," I said. "It was fight or let them destroy me." "There's always a choice. You chose to be strong, remember that." I drove home alone, my hands steady on the wheel. The house looked different now. It wasn't Marcus's mansion anymore. It was just a building, beautiful but empty. I'd already decided I was going to sell it. Too many memories, too much pain embedded in these walls. Emily flew in from Boston that evening to celebrate with me. We sat in the kitchen drinking wine, the same kitchen where I'd made dinner for Marcus the night he asked for a divorce. "How do you feel?" Emily asked me. I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Relieved," I finally said. "Angry still sometimes, sad about what I lost, but mostly relieved, like I've been holding my breath for years and can finally exhale." "You lost a cheating husband," Emily said. "That's not really a loss." "No, I lost more than that. I lost the dream. The story I told myself about who we were and what we were building together. That hurts more than losing Marcus himself, because I don't think I even knew who Marcus really was. I was in love with a version of him that maybe never existed." Emily squeezed my hand. "You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You're going to be amazing." I wanted to believe her. The next few months were strange. Adjustment didn't really cover it. I was learning how to be Sarah again, not Marcus's wife. Not the woman who shaped herself to fit someone else's life. Just Sarah. I sold the Connecticut mansion for $12 million. Moved into a smaller place in the city, a beautiful apartment overlooking Central Park. Just me, my space, my choices. I started therapy. Found an excellent psychologist who specialized in trauma and betrayal. Dr. Patricia Chen was in her 60s, wise and gentle, and she helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't just a divorce. It was a form of emotional abuse. The gaslighting, the dismissal of my concerns, the way Marcus had made me doubt my own instincts and perceptions. "You knew something was wrong," Dr. Chen told me in one of our sessions. "Probably a year or more you sensed the distance, the dishonesty, but he made you believe you were paranoid, that your feelings weren't valid. That's abuse, Sarah, and you need to recognize it so you can heal from it." Healing was harder than revenge had been. Revenge was clear, focused. I had an enemy and a goal, but healing was messy and nonlinear. Some days I felt strong and independent and proud of myself. Other days I felt broken and worthless and convinced I'd never trust anyone again. I learned to sit with both versions, to accept that healing wasn't a straight line from pain to peace. It was a zigzag, a spiral, a journey with setbacks and breakthroughs and everything in between. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage to Marcus. Women I'd worked with before, college friends, people who'd known me before I became Mrs. Marcus Thornton. They reminded me of who I used to be. Funny, ambitious, creative, independent. I'd forgotten those parts of myself. "You were always so full of life," my friend Rachel told me over coffee. "Then you married Marcus and it was like you dimmed, like you made yourself smaller to give him more room. It's good to see you shining again." Was I shining? I wasn't sure, but I was finding myself again. That was something. I also started working again. I didn't need to, not financially, but I needed purpose. I'd spent too many years just being Marcus's wife, organizing his home and attending his events. I needed to build something that was mine. I started a consulting business helping small companies with their marketing and branding. Used all those skills I developed years ago and then abandoned. It felt good to use my brain again, to solve problems, to create value on my own terms. My first client was a woman-owned startup making sustainable fashion. The founder, Maria, reminded me of myself 20 years ago, passionate, hardworking, struggling to get her business off the ground. I helped her develop a marketing strategy that tripled her sales in 4 months. "I can't afford to pay you what you're worth," Maria told me apologetically. "Yes, you can," I said, "because what I'm worth isn't about money anymore. It's about building something meaningful. You're paying me exactly what this is worth to me." Word spread. I took on more clients. Small businesses, nonprofits, entrepreneurs who needed expertise but couldn't afford big corporate consulting fees. I worked with them, mentored them, helped them grow. And in helping them, I grew too. As for Marcus and Jessica, I heard things through the grapevine. I didn't seek out information, but in overlapping social circles, news travels. Marcus kept his position as CEO of Technova, but his reputation had taken serious hits. The investors knew about the affair even if it hadn't become public. They didn't trust him the same way. Several board members had privately expressed concerns about his judgment. He was on thin ice, and everyone knew it. His relationship with Jessica had imploded, exactly as I'd predicted. The second things got difficult, the second she became a liability instead of an asset, he dropped her. She'd been fired from Technova, lost her career trajectory, and been abandoned by the man she'd destroyed her integrity for. I heard she'd moved to California, trying to start over. Part of me hoped she learned something from the experience. Part of me didn't care either way. Marcus tried to contact me a few times in the months after the divorce. A text here, an email there, nothing substantial. Just, "How are you doing and hope you're well." I never responded. There was nothing he could say that I needed to hear. Then, about 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into him. I was at a gallery opening in Manhattan, one of those artsy events with wine and cheese and people pretending to understand abstract paintings. I'd been invited by one of my clients whose sister was the featured artist. I turned a corner and there he was. Marcus looked older, tired. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. He was with a woman, blonde and young, clinging to his arm, already replacing Jessica, already moving on to the next temporary fix. Our eyes met across the gallery. For a second, neither of us moved. Then Marcus walked over. The blonde followed, looking curious. "Sarah," he said. His voice was careful, neutral. "You look well." "I am well," I said, and I meant it. "I heard you started a business. That's great, really great." "Thank you." There was an awkward silence. The blonde was looking between us, clearly trying to figure out who I was. "This is Amber," Marcus said, gesturing to his date. "Amber, this is Sarah, We used to be married." "Oh," Amber said, her eyes widening slightly. "Nice to meet you." I shook her hand, studying her. She was probably 25, beautiful in that generic way that young women in Manhattan often are. Designer dress, expensive jewelry, eager to please smile. I felt sorry for her. "Nice to meet you too," I said, then to Marcus. "I hope you're treating her better than you treated me." Marcus's face flushed. "Sarah, that's not fair, appropriate, true." I raised an eyebrow. "Take care of yourself, Marcus. And Amber. If he starts working late with his assistant a lot, if he starts taking business trips without you, if he starts making you feel crazy for noticing the distance between you, trust your instincts. You're not paranoid. You're not insecure. You're right." I walked away before either of them could respond. My heart was pounding, but I felt good. Powerful. I'd said what I needed to say, and I didn't need anything from Marcus. Not closure, not apologies, not anything. I was free of him in a way that went deeper than just legal papers. A year after the divorce, on a quiet Sunday morning in my apartment, I opened the drawer where I'd kept all the evidence from my case against Marcus. The printed emails, the financial documents, the photos from the private investigator. I'd held on to them, not quite ready to let go of the proof of what had happened. But sitting there in my sunlit living room, a year into my new life, I realized I didn't need them anymore. I knew what had happened. I knew what I'd survived. I didn't need physical evidence to validate my experience. I shredded it all, every page. Watched the paper turn into ribbons and felt lighter with each document that disappeared. The only thing I kept was one photo, not of Marcus and Jessica, not evidence of the affair. It was a photo Emily had taken of me the day my divorce was finalized. I was standing on the courthouse steps, my face serious, my shoulders back, my eyes clear and strong. I looked like a warrior. I framed that photo and put it on my desk, a reminder of who I'd become, what I'd survived, how I'd fought for myself when no one else would. Dr. Chen asked me once in one of our last therapy sessions if I regretted the way I'd handled everything. If I thought I'd gone too far in my revenge, I thought about it carefully before answering. "I don't regret protecting myself," I finally said. "I don't regret fighting for what was legally mine. Marcus tried to rob me and I stopped him. That was justice, not revenge. And the rest of it, exposing the affair, getting Jessica fired, the police report about the necklace. The affair should have been exposed. It violated corporate policy. The board and investors deserve to know. Jessica violated her employment contract and then taunted me with it. Actions have consequences. As for the necklace, Marcus stole it from my safe. That's a crime. I simply reported a crime. So no regrets." I shook my head. "My only regret is that I didn't trust myself sooner. I knew something was wrong for months before I had proof. But I let Marcus convince me I was imagining things. I let him make me doubt my own instincts. If I could go back, I'd trust myself sooner. I'd leave before the betrayal cut so deep." "You can't change the past," Dr. Chen said gently. "But you can take that lesson into your future. Trust yourself, trust your instincts. Don't let anyone convince you that your feelings aren't valid." That became my mantra, trust yourself. It served me well in the months and years that followed, in business decisions, in new friendships, in learning to date again, eventually, cautiously. Every time I felt that whisper of doubt, that old instinct to make myself smaller or dismiss my concerns, I remembered. I remembered what it cost me to ignore my instincts, and I listened to myself instead. 2 years after the divorce, I did something I'd been building up to for a long time. I took a trip to Paris. I'd never been. Marcus had promised to take me, back when we were young and in love and poor. It had become this symbol in my mind of broken promises and betrayal. The city where my husband had taken his mistress instead of his wife. But I refused to let them ruin Paris for me. I went alone, spent a week exploring the city. I visited museums and cafes. I walked along the Seine at sunset. I went to the Eiffel Tower, not to some expensive restaurant with a romantic date, but by myself at midnight when it sparkled with lights. And I felt nothing but peace. Paris was just a city. Beautiful, historic, romantic, but just a city. It didn't belong to Marcus and Jessica. It didn't belong to my pain. It was just a place in the world, and I had every right to experience it on my own terms. On my last night in Paris, I bought myself a necklace from a small jewelry shop in Le Marais. Nothing like the sapphire piece Marcus had given me and then stolen. This was simple, delicate, a gold chain with a tiny compass pendant. The shopkeeper, an elderly Frenchwoman with kind eyes, asked if it was a gift. For myself, I told her. She smiled. The best kind of gift, may it always point you toward your true north. I wore that necklace every day after, a reminder that I was my own guide now. I didn't need anyone else to give me direction or value or worth. I could find my own way. 3 years after the divorce, I was having dinner with Emily at a restaurant in Boston when she asked me the question I'd been waiting for. Are you happy? I didn't answer right away. I thought about my life. My business that was thriving. My apartment that I'd decorated exactly to my taste. The friendships I'd rebuilt and new ones I'd formed. The therapy that had helped me heal. The hobbies I'd picked up, painting and hiking and cooking classes. The freedom to make every single choice based on what I wanted, not what someone else expected. Yes, I said finally. I am happy. Not in the way I thought I would be when I was younger, not the fairy tale I imagined, but real happiness. The kind that comes from knowing yourself and living authentically and not needing anyone else to complete you. Emily raised her glass. To happiness, the real kind. We toasted, and I felt a wave of gratitude. For my sister who'd stood by me. For the strength I'd found in myself. For the journey that had broken me and then rebuilt me into something stronger. If I could go back and talk to the Sarah who received that first photo from Jessica, the woman trembling on her sofa, her whole world crumbling, I would tell her this. You are going to survive this. More than survive. You're going to discover that you are so much stronger than you ever knew. You're going to learn that your worth isn't determined by whether someone chooses to love you faithfully. You're going to find out who you really are when all the pretense is stripped away. It's going to hurt. God, it's going to hurt so much. There will be nights when you cry until you can't breathe. Days when you question everything about yourself. Moments when you'll wonder if you'll ever feel whole again. But you will. You'll heal. You'll grow. You'll become someone you're proud to be. And the people who betrayed you, they'll face their own consequences. Not because you destroyed them, though you could have, but because people who build their happiness on lies and betrayal never find real peace. They'll move from one shallow relationship to another, always looking for something external to fill the emptiness inside them. But you'll fill your own emptiness. You'll discover that you were never incomplete. You were always whole. You just forgot for a while. So hold on. Trust yourself. Fight for yourself. And know that on the other side of this pain is a life more authentic and fulfilling than anything you've known before. Looking back now, I can see that the photo Jessica sent me wasn't the beginning of the end. It was the beginning of the beginning. The catalyst that woke me up from a life I'd been sleepwalking through. Yes, Marcus betrayed me. Yes, Jessica was cruel. Yes, I was hurt in ways I'm still processing. But they also, inadvertently, gave me a gift. They showed me that I was living a lie, that I'd sacrificed myself for a marriage that wasn't real. That I'd been so busy being who I thought I should be that I'd forgotten who I actually was. Would I have chosen this path if I'd had a choice? Probably not. The pain was too intense, the betrayal too deep. But I didn't have a choice about what they did to me. I only had a choice about how I responded. And I chose to fight. I chose to stand up for myself. I chose to demand what I deserved and refuse to be diminished. That choice changed everything. So here's what I want you to understand, whoever you are listening to this story. Whether you're going through a betrayal right now, or you've survived one, or you're trying to prevent one. This is what I learned. Your instincts are valid. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone convince you that you're paranoid or irrational for trusting your gut. You are not defined by someone else's inability to see your worth. Marcus couldn't appreciate me. Couldn't be faithful to me, couldn't honor our vows. But that says everything about him and nothing about my value. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. Fighting for yourself isn't vindictive. Refusing to accept less than you deserve isn't greedy. It's self-respect. And you're entitled to it. Betrayal can destroy you or it can transform you. The choice is yours. I chose transformation. It was harder than destruction would have been, but it was worth it. And finally, you are stronger than you think. In your darkest moment, when everything has fallen apart and you don't know how you'll survive, there's a strength inside you that you haven't tapped into yet. Trust it. Lean into it. Let it carry you through. I did. And here I am. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just existing, but truly living. 4 years after that photo arrived on my phone, I'm sitting in my apartment on a Saturday morning. Sunlight streams through the windows. I have coffee in my favorite mug, the one I bought for myself on a trip to Portland. In an hour, I'm meeting friends for brunch. Tomorrow, I'm hiking with a group I joined last year. Next week, I'm flying to London to meet with a potential new client. My life is full, rich, meaningful, and it's entirely mine. Sometimes I think about that sapphire necklace, the one Marcus gave me and then stole, the one Jessica wore so smugly in Paris. I never got it back. It's evidence in a closed case somewhere, or maybe it was returned to Marcus. I don't know and I don't care. Because I realized something important. I don't need that necklace. I don't need any symbol of Marcus's love or commitment. I don't need validation from him or anyone else. I have something better. I have myself, my strength, my integrity, my hard-won peace. And no one can ever take that away from me. That's the real revenge in the end. Not destroying them, though I could have. Not making them suffer, though they did. The real revenge is being genuinely happy without them. Building a life so fulfilling that they become irrelevant. Healing so completely that they don't occupy any space in my heart or mind. They're just part of my story now. A chapter that's closed. Not forgotten because the lessons were too valuable. But not active. Not present. Not important. I'm the main character in my own life now. Not supporting cast in someone else's story. And that makes all the difference. So to anyone out there who's going through betrayal right now, who's holding their phone looking at evidence of lies, who's feeling their world crumble around them, I want you to hear this. You're going to be okay. More than okay. This is going to hurt like nothing you've ever experienced. But you're going to survive it. You're going to grow from it. And one day, you're going to look back and realize that the worst thing that ever happened to you was also the thing that set you free. Trust yourself. Fight for yourself. Choose yourself. Every single time. That's my story. That's how a photo of my necklace on another woman destroyed my marriage but saved my life. That's how betrayal broke me and then rebuilt me stronger. I'm Sarah. And I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm thriving. And if I can do it, so can you. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, if you've been through something similar, or if you know someone who needs to hear this, I hope you'll share it. Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. Tell me where you're watching from and what part of this story spoke to you. Remember, you are stronger than you know. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's actions. And sometimes the worst betrayal is the beginning of your best life. Stay strong, trust yourself, and never, ever settle for less than you deserve. Until next time.